Cool. All right. Okay. All right, so first reading section. 1. In the early 1800s, Cherokee scholar Sequoyah created the first script or writing system for an indigenous language in the United States. Because it represented the sounds of spoken Cherokee so accurately, his script was easy to learn and thus quickly achieved blank use. By 1830, over 90% of the Cherokee people could read and write it. So if 90% of the Cherokee people could read and write it, that's definitely widespread, right? 2, when Mexican-American archaeologist Zelia Maria Magdalena Nuttall published her 1886 research paper on sculptures found at the ancient indigenous city of, I'm not even going to try that, in present-day Mexico, other researchers readily blank her work as groundbreaking. This recognition stemmed from her convincing demonstration that the sculptures were much older than had previously been thought. So, what stands out here? Yep. This recognition, her work is groundbreaking, so acknowledged, really fits in well there. 3, like other tribal nations, Muskogee Creek Nation is self-governing. Its national council generates laws regulating aspects of community life such as land use and healthcare, while the principal, chief, and cabinet officials blank those laws by devising policies and administering services in accordance with them. So which word fits there? A, implement, that's a strong candidate. B, presume. I don't see anything there that's a presumption, nor do I see anything representing improvisation or mimicking, so A is, again, implement would fit there. 4, in the indigenous intercropping system known as the Three Sisters, maize, squash, and beans form a blank web of relations. Maize provides the structure on which the bean vines grow, the squash vines cover the soil, discouraging competition by weeds, and the beans aid their two sisters by enriching the soil with essential nitrogen. So which word best fits there? Indecipherable, no, I don't really see anything indecipherable there. Ornamental, not really. Obscure, no, I don't see anything obscure. Intricate would really fit there because they're describing a system, an intricate system in which the three kind of collaborate with each other. 5, the artisans of the Igun guild in Nigeria typically blank the bronze and brass casting techniques that have been passed down through their families since the 13th century. But they don't strictly observe every tradition. For example, guild members now use air conditioning motors instead of handheld bellows to help heat their forges. So what stands out there? They don't follow all the traditions. They have introduced modern processes in conjunction with the traditions. So I don't see it really as experimenting. They do improve on, maybe grapple with. I don't see that. But the first, let's re-examine that sentence. Typically adhere to the bronze and brass casting techniques that have been passed down through the centuries. Yeah, that kind of fits because they're taking some of it. It's kind of tempting to choose that, but there's nothing there that really corroborates that it's an improvement. It's just a different process that they're using. 6, some economic historians blank that late 19th and early 20th century households in the United States experienced an economy of scale when it came to food purchase. They assumed that large households spent less on food per person than small households did. Economist Trevor Logan showed, however, that a close look at the available data disproves this supposition. So they first, definitely not regretted. There's nothing there in the first part for question, so that wouldn't fit. Contrived wouldn't really fit. Surmised. They first surmised. The work of Kiowa painter T.C. Cannon derives its power in part from the tension among his blank influences: classic European portraiture with its realistic treatment of faces, the American pop art movement with its vivid colors and flat style, the intertribal painting style that rejects the effect of depth, typically achieved through shading and perspective. So they're describing three pretty different things here. I don't see them as exactly complementary. Unknown, I don't necessarily see it as unknown, so if we're choosing between disparate and interchangeable, I would go with disparate because there's nothing really between the three that are interchangeable. They're pretty unique and distinct from each other, at least that's what's implied by the passage. 8, new and interesting research conducted by Suleiman, the two researchers, inspired by their observation that though there have been many studies of the effect of high altitude on blood chemistry, there is blank studies of the effect on blood chemistry of living in locations below sea level, such as the California towns of Salton City and Sealy. So they're looking at the impact of altitude on blood chemistry. There's a lot for high altitude, there's not for low altitude. So really going to focus on this word, first word, coral. No, coral doesn't really fit there. Paucity, paucity, it's kind of an SAT word, but that would mean a dearth of, or not very much of, so that definitely fits. Profusion, no. Profusion, I don't see anything, or verisimilitude, I don't see anything there either, so paucity really fits best there. 9, the following text is from Sarah Jewett's 1899 short story, Martha's Lady. Martha is employed by Miss Pine as a maid. Miss Pine sat by the window watching, in her best dress, looking stately and calm. She seldom went out now, and it was just almost time for the carriage. Martha was just coming in from the garden with strawberries, and with more flowers in her apron. It was a bright, cool evening in June. The golden robins sang in the elms, and the sun was going down behind the apple trees at the foot of the garden. The beautiful old house stood wide open to the long-expected guest. That sentence really stands out there. So which choice best conveys the main purpose of the passage? To convey the worries, I don't see anything related to anyone worrying in this. B, to describe how the characters have changed over time, I don't see anything there referencing how they may have changed. C, to contrast the activity indoors with the stillness outside. Not so much, but how about D? To depict the setting as characters await a visitor's arrival. D, that definitely connects to that last sentence in the passage. Astronomers are confident that the star Betelgeuse will eventually consume all the helium in its core and explode in a supernova. They are much less confident, however, about when this will happen, since that depends on internal characteristics of Betelgeuse that are largely unknown. Astrophysicist and colleagues recently investigated whether acoustic waves in the star could be used to determine internal stellar states, but concluded this method could not sufficiently reveal Betelgeuse's internal characteristics to allow its evolutionary state to be firmly fixed. Okay, so what is this really saying? They know a star will eventually go supernova, but they're not quite sure when this will happen. He had a theory that this could be potentially determined by measuring acoustic waves, but they found it was insufficient to determine the internal characteristics. The other part here is that it's really the internal characteristics of the star. I think it's actually the amount of iron in its core, interestingly enough. So this connection between the internal acoustics and the amount of iron in a star's core, it didn't end up working out. So which choice best describes the second sentence, the overall structure of the text? So what are they saying there? They are much less confident, however, about when this will happen, since that depends on the internal characteristics of Betelgeuse that are largely unknown. So A, it explains how the work of Nance and the colleagues was received by others. Really no critique of how his hypothesis was perceived in the scientific community, so that's not correct. B, it presents the central finding reported by Nance and his colleagues, possibly, but C, it identifies the problem that Nance and colleagues attempted to solve but did not. That really stands out to me. I think that's a pretty strong candidate. How about D? It describes a serious limitation of the method used by Nance and his colleagues. No. I'm going to go with C. It identifies the problem that they attempted to solve, but they couldn't quite come up with a plausible explanation, or they couldn't come up with a method to really determine that internal characteristic that was highlighted and kind of called out in that second sentence. 11. The following text is from Jane Austen's 1811 novel, Sense and Sensibility. Eleanor lives with her younger sisters and her mother, Miss Dashwood. Eleanor, this eldest daughter, whose advice was so effectual, possessed a strength of understanding and coolness of judgment, which qualified her, though only 19, to be the counselor of her mother. That's interesting. And enabled her to frequently counteract, to the advantage of them all, that eagerness of mind in Miss Dashwood, which must generally have led to imprudence. Interesting. She had an excellent heart. Her disposition was affectionate and her feelings were strong, but she knew how to govern them. It was a knowledge her mother had yet to learn, and which one of her sisters had resolved would never be taught. According to the text, what is true about Eleanor? A. Eleanor often argues with her mother but fails to change her mind. I don't see anything there about Eleanor arguing with her mom. B. Eleanor can be overly sensitive with regard to family matters. I don't see anything there that would suggest that. C. Eleanor thinks her mother is a bad role model. Nope, I don't see anything there to suggest that either. Or D. Eleanor is remarkably mature for her age. That definitely comprises what they're trying to express with some of the characteristics that they've described throughout the entirety of the passage. 12. Believing that living in an impractical space can heighten awareness and even improve health, conceptual artist Madeline Gins and Shusaku Arakawa designed an apartment building in Japan to be more fanciful than functional. That stands out. A kitchen counter is chest high on one side and knee high on the other. A ceiling has a door to nowhere. This effect is disorienting, but invigorating. After 4 years there, filmmaker Nobu Yamaoka reported significant health benefits. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? Although inhabiting a home surrounded by fanciful features such as those designed by the two people listed there can be rejuvenating, is this unsustainable? There's nothing there to suggest it's unsustainable. B, designing disorienting spaces like those the two people had for this building is most effective way to create a physically stimulating environment. Potentially. There is some reference to the health benefits, but let's keep reading. As a filmmaker, Yamaoka has long supported the designs of conceptual art. No, there's nothing there for that. D, although impractical, the design of the apartment building by the two people improved the well-being of the building's residents. Yep, that definitely connects to that last sentence, which really summarizes the passage. 13. In a research paper, a student criticizes some historians of modern African politics, claiming that they have elevated Patrice Lumumba, the first prime minister of what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, primarily as a symbol rather in terms of his actions. That, again, stands out. Criticizes, right? Okay. So which quotation from a work by a historian would best illustrate the student's claim? What is the student's claim? That historians have largely attributed this prime minister as being symbolic rather than focusing on his actions as prime minister. So we're looking for a claim that is congruent with that. So A, Lumumba is a difficult figure to evaluate due to the starkly conflicting opinions he spared. No. B, the available information makes it clear that Lumumba's political beliefs and values were largely consistent through his entire career. No, I don't think that really fits either. Lumumba's practical accomplishments can be passed over quickly. It is mainly the personification of Congolese independence that he warrants scholarly attention. Yes, that would definitely fit the symbol, right? Because personification, symbol, right? Okay, graphs. SAT tip for graphs. Read the last sentence. In some regions, female farmers were found to be especially prominent in the cultivation of specific types of crops and even constituted the majority of farmers who cultivated those crops. For instance, let's look at the graph again. This one's a hard one. I remember going over this the first time. Which choice most effectively uses the data from the graph to complete the example? Most of the farmers who mainly cultivated cereals and most of the farmers who mainly cultivated non-root vegetables in South Ondo were women. Cereals. That first sentence is wrong. Most farmers for cereals, right, which would be this, they're all under 50%, so that's wrong. More women in Central Ondo mainly cultivated root crops than mainly cultivated cereals. Root crops. Nope, that's wrong. It's below cereals, right? So that's not a good choice. C, most of the farmers who mainly cultivated non-root vegetables in North and South Oda were women. Non-root vegetables, most, yeah. What is specifically North and South Ondo. South, North, both were over 50%. Boom. C. 15. Given that stars and planets initially form from the same gas and dust in space, some astronomers have posited that host stars, such as the Sun and their planets, such as those in our solar system, are composed of the same materials, with the planets containing equal or smaller quantities of the materials that make up the host star. Okay, key sentence there. Containing equal or smaller quantities of the materials that make up the host star, right? And So this idea is also supported by evidence that rocky planets in our solar system are composed of some of the same materials as the sun. I don't really know what to do with that sentence. I really kind of want to focus on this right here, right? So which findings, if true, would most directly weaken the astronomers' claim? What is their claim? That they contain equal or smaller quantities of material that make up the host star. So we're looking for a sentence in one of the options that has more than what? More in the planet than the actual star. So A, most stars are made of hydrogen and helium, but when cooled, blah. There's no reference to iron or silicate or anything like that. B, a nearby host star is observed to contain the same proportion of hydrogen or helium as that of the sun. It does meet the equal part. That's a candidate. We'll come back to that. C, evidence emerges that the amount of iron in some rocky planets is considerably higher than the amount in their host star. That directly weakens the claim of the astronomers that the planets contain either equal or smaller. So maybe in some of these sentences where you kind of get comparisons, look, it's a A and B comparison thing, right? The astronomers are saying that sun has more than the planets. And for this one, a claim that refutes that basically implies that the planets have more trace element or of these trace elements than the sun does. 16. In the 20th century, ethnographers made a concerted effort to collect Mexican American folklore, but they did not always agree about the folklore's origin. Right. Scholars such as Aurelio Espinosa claim that Mexican American folklore derived largely from the folklore of Spain, which ruled Mexico and what is now the southwestern United States from the 16th to early 19th centuries. Scholars such as Americo Paredes, by contrast, argued that while some Spanish influence is undeniable, Mexican-American folklore is mainly the product of the ongoing interactions of various cultures in Mexico and the United States. So they have two different interpretations here, right? So the first scholar really says that it's primarily attributable to the folklore, Spanish origin, right? And then the other one is basically saying that it actually mostly arose from interactions between Mexico and the United States. Which finding, if true, would most directly support Paredes' argument, which is the second person referenced here, right? So he's saying that he's diminishing the claim, or he would disagree with the claim that it is largely of Spanish origin, and he's saying it's mostly of local origin. So A, the folklore that the ethnographers collected includes several songs written in the form of decima, a type of poem originating in late 16th century Spain. Anything to do with Spain? Nope. B, much of the folklore that the ethnographers collected had similar elements from region to region. Maybe. C, most of the folklore that the ethnographers collected was previously unknown to scholars. I don't see anything there. D, most of the folklore that the ethnographers collected consisted of corridos, ballads about history and social life, of a clearly recent origin. I like that because it really kind of ties to the interaction between the Mexico and the United States. Of course, the United States came into existence in the late 18th century. Yes, late 1700s, that would be 18th century. And they're saying that the Spanish folklore came from what century? 16th to early 19th centuries. Well, this is a tough one. We'll come back to this one. Yeah. 17. In the early 19th century, some Euro-American farmers in the northeastern United States used agricultural techniques developed by the Iroquois people centuries earlier. But it seems that few of these farmers had actually seen Iroquois farms firsthand. Barring the possibility of several farmers of the same era independently developing techniques that the Iroquois people had already invented, these facts strongly suggest that blank. All right, let's go through this. So, American farmers were using agricultural techniques developed by Iroquois people centuries earlier, but they hadn't actually seen that firsthand. So it's kind of a mystery how this came into existence. Barring the possibility of several farmers of the same era independently developing techniques of the Iroquois people had already invented, these facts mostly suggest what? Farmers learned the techniques from other people that were mostly indirectly influenced by the Iroquois practices. No, I don't see anything there. B, the crops typically cultivated by European American farmers in the northeastern United States were not well suited. No, there's nothing in reference to the crops. Iroquois farming techniques were widely used in regions outside the northeastern United States. I don't see anything there. D, Euro-American farmers only began to recognize. Actually, you know what? I gotta go back. Yeah, I don't like D. Yeah, it's C. How does that connect? So, northeastern United States, they had been there for centuries, but these farming techniques were emergent and not necessarily connected to the Iroquois. So, the most plausible explanation there is that these techniques originated from somewhere else locally, but weren't necessarily attributable to the Iroquois, which fits in with C. 18. If some artifacts recovered from excavations of the settlement of Coelho Cata in modern Ghana date from the 13th century CE, that many lend credence to the claim that the settlement was founded before or around that time. There's other evidence, however, strongly supporting a 14th century founding date. If both artifact dates and the 14th century founding date are correct, that would imply what? Artifacts from the 14th century are more commonly recovered than the artifacts from the 13th century? We'll come back to that. The artifacts originated elsewhere and eventually reached Cuelapata through trade or migration. Possible, yes. C. This place was founded by people from a different region that had previously been assumed. I don't see that. One sec. Sorry. Excavations may have inadvertently damaged some. No, I don't see anything there. So between A or B, artifacts from the 14th century are more commonly recovered than artifacts from the 13th century. I don't see anything there. Artifacts originated elsewhere and eventually reached through trade or migration. They say B, and I'm going to read it because I don't know. I don't see anything there that would suggest that, so I want to read their explanation. Choice B is the best answer because it most logically completes the text discussion of artifacts and Cuelapata's founding date. If it were true both that Cuelapata was founded in the 14th century and that artifacts found in excavations of the settlement are from the 13th century, it would be reasonable to conclude that the artifacts weren't created in the Cuelapata settlement. That would suggest then that the artifacts originated somewhere else and eventually reached the settlement through trading or as people migrated. I don't see how that's any more or less plausible than A, to be honest, but it's interesting. 19. A team of biologists led by Jae Hoon Young, Antonio Barbosa, and Stephanie Hunton investigated the mechanism that allows fail cross plants to accelerate flowering at high temperatures. They replaced the protein ELF3 in the plants with a similar protein found in another species, stiff brome, so they replaced the protein. This plant flowers at high temperatures. They replaced it, and they put it in a similar species of flower. And they observed no acceleration in flowering with increased temperature. A comparison of unmodified plant with altered plant showed no difference in flowering at 22 degrees Celsius, but at 27 degrees Celsius, the unmodified plants exhibited accelerated flowering while the altered ones did not. So this is a really complicated way of saying what? You have an unmodified plant that grows in high temperatures. You have a modified plant where they took that out and seemingly does not. The one that was unmodified grows in high temperatures, but the other one that was modified did not exhibit the same behavior. So which choice logically completes the text? We're basically looking for a choice that says what then? That ELF3 promotes increased growth as temperature rises. Temperature-sensitive accelerated flowering is unique to that plant. No. B, increases ELF3 production as temperatures rise. I don't see that either. C, ELF3 enables the plant to respond to increased temperatures. I think, yes, that definitely fits. 20. A member of the Cherokee Nation, Mary Golda Ross, is renowned for her contribution to NASA's Planetary Flight Handbook, which blank detailed mathematical guidance for missions to Mars and Venus. Let's see. Kind of past tense there. So provided, yeah, that's a strong candidate. Having provided, wordy, it doesn't really fit. To provide, no, that tense is phrasing is incorrect. Providing, no, that's a tense switch. Provided fits in best. Typically, underlines, scribbles, and notes left in margins by a former owner lowers a book's blank when the former owner is a famous poet like Walt Whitman. Such markings, known as marginalia, can be a goldmine to literary scholars. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the standard conventions of standard English? So you need the but there, right? So that really eliminates B and C. D would make it a run-on sentence. You really need the comma there to separate the two components of the sentence. 22. After the United Kingdom began rolling out taxes equivalent to a few cents on single-use plastic grocery bags in 2011, plastic bag consumption decreased by up to 90 blank. Taxes are subject to what economists call the rebound effect. As the change became normalized, plastic bag use started to creep back up. Okay, so looking at our choices, up to, we need percent, yes. And then do we include B would be a run-on sentence. C, I think would also be run-on. And D would definitely be run-on, so that I think we can separate the two with a period. All right, 23. As British scientist Peter Wibberley has observed, the Earth is not a very good timekeeper. Earth's slightly irregular rotation means that measurements of time must be periodically adjusted. Specifically, an extra leap second, the 86,401st second of the day, is blank time, based on the planet's rotation lags a full 9/10 of a second behind time kept by precise atomic clocks. So what fits there? We have added, right? So looking at specifically, an extra second, leap second, is added whenever. I don't think you really need to separate that out, right? Is added whenever time based on the planet's rotation lags. Yeah, I think that fits best. Let me double check. Yep, that's right. Bengali author Toru Dutt's A Sheaf Gleaned in French Fields, a volume of English translation of French poems, blank scholars' understanding of the transnational and multilingual context in which Dutt lived and worked. Okay. Enhance, no. Because this is plural, right? Are enhancing, I don't think that fits either. Has or have. I think has fits best because it fits in with the tense that is present in the passage. Journalists have dubbed Gil Scott-Heron the godfather of rap, a title that has appeared in hundreds of articles about him since the 1990s. Scott-Heron himself resisted the Godfather, blank, feeling that it didn't encapsulate his devotion to the broader African-American blues music tradition as well as bluesologist, the moniker he preferred. So, nickname and then however. So let's examine the sentence. Subject, right? So there's punctuation in all these choices. So we have to choose between whether it's a comma or a semicolon. I don't see the semicolon coming into place. And so in either here or here, so that eliminates B and D. I do think you need a comma after however, because however feeling doesn't, that's not grammatically correct, so you would need to go with C there. From afar, African-American fiber artist Bisa Butler's portraits look like paintings. Their depictions of human faces, bodies, and clothing so intricate that it seems only a fine brush could have rendered them. When viewed up close, however, the portraits reveal themselves to be blank, stitching barely visible among the thousands of pieces of printed microcut fabric. So, quilts, what's our choices? Commas, semicolon, or period? When viewed up close, however, the portraits reveal themselves to be quilts. I don't think the period would fit. So then we have and the. I don't see that. Semicolon, I don't think that quite fits. The comma really kind of separates it though, right? With the stitching barely visible among the thousands of pieces of printed microcut fabric. 27. Most conifers, trees belonging to the phylum Coníferophyta, are evergreen. That is, they keep their green leaves or needles year-round. However, not all conifer species are evergreen. Large trees, blank, lose their needles every fall. So what kind of fits in best there? For instance, I think that's a strong candidate. Nevertheless, no, I don't think that quite fits in. Meanwhile, no, because we're kind of comparing two different things. We need something that offers, or hold on one sec. They keep their, however, not all. So this is the sentence that connects to this, right? So we're actually continuing that. However, not all conifer species are evergreen. Large trees, for instance, that could be a candidate. Nevertheless, no, that doesn't quite fit. Meanwhile, no. In addition, I don't think that really fits. For instance, because it's giving an example of a conifer species that loses their needles every fall. 28. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Sam Maloof was an American woodworker and furniture designer. He was the son of Lebanese immigrants. He received a Genius Grant from John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation in 1985. The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts owns a rocking chair that Maloof made from walnut wood. The armrests and the seat of the chair are sleek and contoured, and the back consists of 7 spindle-like slats. The student wants to describe the rocking chair to an audience unfamiliar with Sam. Which choice effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Okay, what bullet point has the rocking chair? This one, right? And what does it say in it? That the chair he made is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. So we're really kind of looking for a sentence that kind of connects it to the chair being residing in the Museum of Fine Art in Boston. So A, with its sleek contoured armrest and seat, the walnut rocking chair in Boston's Museum of Fine Arts is just one piece of furniture created by American woodworker Sam Maloof. Maybe. Sam Maloof was born in 1916 and died in 2009, who made a chair that you can see if you visit the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. I don't think that really represents the main purpose of the passage. C, furniture designer Sam Maloof was a recipient of one of the Genius Grants. No, there's really nothing there. D, the rocking chair is made from walnut and it has been shaped such that its armrests, no, that's not really a good summary that connects to the chair. So A is the best choice there. 29. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. In the late 1890s, over 14,000 unique varieties of apples were grown in the U.S. The rise of industrial agriculture in the mid-1900s narrowed the range of commercially grown crops. Thousands of apple varieties considered less suitable for commercial growth were lost. So there were thousands of different apple varieties, and now that isn't the case. Today, only 15 apple varieties dominate the market, making up 90% of apples purchased in the U.S. The Lost Apple Project, based in Washington State, attempts to find and grow lost apple varieties. The student wants to emphasize the decline in unique apple varieties in the U.S. and specify why this decline occurred. So just pulling out the bullet points here. Why? Rise of industrial agriculture in the mid-1900s. Narrowed the range of commercially grown crops, right? And what else? He wants to emphasize the decline in unique apple varieties in the U.S. and why this occurred. So we're looking for a choice there that really kind of connects to that second bullet point. A, the Lost Apple Project is dedicated to finding some of the apple varieties lost following a shift in agricultural practices in the mid-1900s. No, that's not a strong choice. B, while over 14,000 apple varieties were grown in the U.S. in the late 1890s, only 15 unique varieties make up most of the apples sold today. It doesn't really go into why the decline occurred, so that probably isn't a good choice. C, since the rise of industrial agriculture, U.S. farmers have mainly grown the same few unique apple varieties, resulting in the loss of thousands of varieties less suitable for commercial growth. It doesn't go into the why. As industrial agriculture rose to prominence in the mid-1900s, the number of crops selected for cultivation has decreased dramatically. I think that is I'm going to go back. Since the rise of industrial agriculture, U.S. farmers have mainly grown the same few unique apple varieties, resulting, the rise of industrial agriculture, which again connects to this. So yeah, C is the strongest option there. 30. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Cecilia is a multidisciplinary artist. In 1971, her first solo exhibit was shown at the National Museum of Arts in Santiago, Chile. Her poetry collection was published in 1983 by Tandem Press. Her poetry collection was published, there's a different poetry collection, was published in 2002 by a different press. She lives part-time in Chile, where she was born, and part-time in New York. The student wants to introduce the artist's 1983 poetry collection. Which poetry collection was from 1983? This one, right? And it was published by Tandem Press. Which choice most effectively uses the relevant information from notes to accomplish this goal? A, before the no, there's nothing there. Cecilia is a true multidisciplinary artist whose works include numerous poetry collections and visual art exhibitions. No, there's nothing in reference to her 1983 poetry collection. Published in 1983 by Tandem Press, yes, that definitely is connecting to the 1983 poetry works that were published. 31. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. When medical students mention their patients on social media, they may violate patient confidentiality. Terry Kind led a study to determine how many medical schools have student policies that mention social media use. Kind and her team reviewed 132 medical school websites, examining publicly available student policies. Only 13 medical schools had guidelines that explicitly mentioned social media, and only 5 define what constitutes acceptable social media use. That's interesting. So the majority don't, right, talk about acceptable social media use. In fact, only a handful do. Student wants to emphasize the study's methodology. What was the methodology? They reviewed the medical school websites, examining publicly available student policies. So we're looking for something that connects to this, right? The student policies of 132 medical schools can be found online, according to research. That's not the main focus. B, to find out how many medical schools have guidelines about social media use, Terry Kind and her team examined the student policies of 132 medical schools. That's a strong choice. Out of 132 medical schools, only 13 had student policies that mentioned social media use, and only 5 specified what was acceptable. Let's go back to the question. Wants to emphasize the study's methodology. So both of them reference 132, but this one goes into the results, right? This is really the methodology. They talk about the methodology there. So I'm going to go with B. 32. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The Gullah are a group of African Americans who have lived in parts of the southeastern United States since the 18th century. Gullah culture is influenced by West African and Central African traditions. Louise Miller Cohen is a Gullah historian, storyteller, and preservationist. She founded the Gullah Museum of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina in 2003. Vermel Rodriguez is a Gullah historian, artist, and preservationist. That's interesting. They have similar career interests. She founded the Gullah Museum of Georgetown, so they both founded museums in different places. And they're both studying similar things, Gullah culture, right? The student wants to emphasize the duration and purpose of Cohen's and Rodriguez's work. Duration equals time, right? Both 2003. So we're looking for a choice that has 2003. C immediately stands out to me because it really talks about the duration, and it also fits that they are really focused on Gullah culture, right? So that would be best fit. Is it right? I just want to double check. Yes. Last question in this section. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. In North America, woodlands have expanded into areas that were once grasslands. Thomas Rogers and Leland Russell of Wichita State University investigated whether woodland expansion is related to changes in climate. Stands out to me, right? Rogers and Russell analyzed core samples from oak trees on a site that was not wooded in the past and indexed the age of trees with historical climate data to see if tree populations and climate were correlated. Tree population growth was associated with dry intervals. Droughts may have played a role in woodland expansion. A student wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. What is the aim of the research study? Whether woodland expansion is related to change in climate, and what did they find? They looked at the climate data, and they saw that tree population was associated with dry intervals, so less rain. And droughts have played a role in woodland expansion. So that's kind of the opposite of what I would expect. I would have expected that droughts would have actually slowed woodland expansion, but they found the opposite, apparently. Oh, one little interesting thing. Woodlands have expanded into areas that were once grasslands. So they're really saying that grasslands are getting smaller and woodlands are getting larger. I don't know, it's just interesting. Student wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. Again, the aim of the research study is this, right? Which choice most effectively uses the relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Aim of the research study, right? So they're saying, wanted to know if woodland expansion is related to changes in climate. That's a strong candidate. Thanks to the work, we know that droughts, that doesn't talk about the aim of the research study. That gets into the results. The researchers have determined that tree population growth was associated, again, that gets into the results. We really wanted something that focuses on the aim of the research study. And this also seems to focus on the results, so I'm going to go with A, right? Because that talks about the purpose of the research study. All right, done with the first section. So far, so good? Cool. bad. That's pretty good. Jump to math. Around the corner, to the left. Do you find the pace good? Everything good so far with the following along?
It's fine.
Okay.
No issues.
Sorry?
No issues.
Good. Good.
We have friends that work here, so they stop by real quick.
Oh, sure.
I don't think they're doing that. We're doing math next?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about it, it's fine. Got my phone here. Someone said something about Desmos the last time we were here. I have no idea. I know what it is, but I don't know what to use.
I think it's just the built-in calculator that they give you. They give you a graphing calculator embedded in the exam itself. Because I don't know if you take it on. Have they told you whether you're going to take it on the computer or an iPad or like what kind of device are you going to take it on?
The iPad.
Oh, iPad?
Yeah, it's all online now, which is weird because a PSAT was way shorter than it usually was on paper.
Yeah.
It was usually like this, but it was like half the question. The SAT probably won't look at that. I took one practice, so one real practice.
Mm-hmm.
14, above 1400 hopefully.
Nice. You guys all friends?
Yeah. Not until tomorrow. Tomorrow, because I will be 3 days, but we love it.
Yeah, go for it. I go,
Your birds smell, bro. Jesus. I had chilaquiles. You know what that is? Anyone? No one?
no, I haven't heard of it.
It's like eggs. I'm taking a bunch. I'm rating your stuff. Sorry.
Go for it.
It's like eggs, chicken, bunch of cheese, salsa verde, chips,
Hmm.
all combined with egg. Yeah, I already said eggs.
Sounds good. All right, we're gonna switch up to math. We're gonna jump to the first math section. See, that 32, I think, 32. I got extra copies if you need them of the exam. All right. 1. What is the solution to the given equation? This is a good one to start with, right? Right. So B. Am I on the right page? I think I am.
You are, yeah. I don't know. I guess I
Here, I gotta just. Don't worry about it.
I already got one. Thank you. You printed another one on accident. It's my printer.
All right. 2. Function f is defined f of x equals x cubed plus 15. What is f of 2? All right, we're just substituting 2 for x, right? 2 cubed is 8. 8 plus 15 is 23. Sean rents a tent at the cost of 11 per day, so 11D, plus one-time insurance fee of $10. What is the insurance, or excuse me, which equation represents the total cost C in dollars to rent the tent with insurance for D days, right? So 11D plus 10. Yep, that would be C. In the figure shown, line M is parallel to N. What is the value of X? You can immediately eliminate all. This is obviously over 90 degrees, so 180 minus 26 equals 154, right? John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each, right? So 16P equals 165. Which of the following equations represents this? So I just wrote it out. If I had to rearrange it, I would get 16P plus 37 equals 165, right? If y equals 5x plus 10, what is the value of y when x equals 8? Well, yes. The bar graph shows the distribution of 419 cans collected by 10 different groups for a food drive. How many cans were collected by group 6? 40. The table gives the distribution of voters for a new school mascot and grade level for 80 students. If one of these students is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for a new mascot was a lion? So how many, really all we care about is this, right? So 20 out of 80. 20 divided by 80 is the same thing as 1 over 4, right? The graph represents the total charge in dollars by an electrician for X hours of work. The electrician charges a one-time fee plus an hourly rate. What is the best interpretation of the slope of the graph? Right? So, just a little quiz for you guys. What is the y-intercept represent?
Where y is graph on x equals 0.
Right, so, but in a functional sense. So is it the one-time fee or the hourly rate, or what point does this represent? If he's worked 0 hours and this is this point right here, what does that represent? Very simple, don't overthink it. It's his one-time fee, right? Because when X is 0, his one-time fee is the intercept, right? So what is the slope? So they're just talking about the line now. That's just his hourly rate, right? 11. What is the equation of the line that passes through the point 0, 5 and is parallel to the graph? Oh, sorry. The square x has a side length of 12 centimeters. The perimeter of square y is 2 times the perimeter of square x. What is the length in centimeters of one side of square y? All right, so just real quick, because this isn't that hard. There are 2 squares, right? So the perimeter of square x is 48, right? They're saying the perimeter of square y is 2 times the perimeter of square x. So, just looking at this, it's not going to be 6, it's not going to be 10. So your choices are between 14 and 24. Well, if it's 2 times, let's just go with 24 and see what we get, right? 24 times 4 is 96. So, and they say the perimeter of square y is 2 times the perimeter of square x. That seems to match, right? So it's 24. What is the equation of the line that passes through the point 0, 5 and is parallel to the graph of y equals 7x plus 4 in the xy plane? So if it's parallel, what does that mean? What's the slope? All right, and what's the slope in the equation?
7.
Right. So we're going to be 7, right? So that eliminates D and A, and it's parallel, meaning that the 2 lines intersect. So what does that mean? That means that, right, it goes through the point 0, 5, right? So this wouldn't fit, right? Because if I plug in 0 here, I don't get, or if I plug in 0 here, if I plug in 0 here, I don't get 5 on the other end, so it's B, right? In the linear function h of 0 equals 41 and h of 1 equals 40. So they're actually giving me points there, right? So what are my 2 coordinates? So I've got 0, 41 and 1, 40. So we're looking equation y2 minus y1, right? y2, we're going to go with 41 minus 40, 0 minus 1, so I get 1 over negative 1 or just negative 1, right? So I got negative 1. What do they also give me? They give me the intercept, right? Because when x equals 0, y equals 41, so I have my slope, right? And I have my intercept. Sorry, it's just A, right? The function f of t, 60,000 to the t over 410 gives the number of bacteria in a population t minutes after initial observation. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria in the population to double? Anytime you get exponential stuff in the SAT, try to find a value, start playing with values that gets the exponent to 0 or 1, because that's going to probably, it's not going to be a calculation. It's going to be just an expression where the exponent either gives, is going to yield 1, right? So they tell us in this equation that the bacteria population t minutes after initial observation. And I've already got this 2 here, right? So if I start with 60,000, what expression do I need to get so that I go from 60,000 to 100,000, 120,000 if I have 60 times 2 already? I just need this to equal 2. What value of t do I need here? 410.
410.
You're close. Yeah, 410, right? I promise you, anytime they ask you stuff about exponents, just get the exponent, get this to equal 0 or 1. And you will probably, that'll take you the rest of the way that you need, the direction you need to go to get the answer. The function f is defined by f of x equals x minus 6, x minus 2, and x plus 6. In the xy plane, the graph of y equals g of x is the result of this is just a bunch of words to say that they're shifting the graph up 4 units. What does that really mean? It's just adding 4 at the end. That's really all it means, right? So I'm going to rewrite this whole dang thing. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to put 4 on the end. That's it. Plus 4. That's it. A shift plus 4, right? So what does this whole thing equal when I plug in 0? So I got 0 minus 6, 0 minus 2, 0 plus 6, plus 4. So what does that come out to? Minus 6, minus 2, and 6, plus 4. So I get positive 12. Positive 12 times 6, 72, plus 4. So g of 0 equals 76. Good? Just remember shifting. You're just adding whatever expression that they have to the, you're just adding an integer value to the end of it. That's all it is. It's just a fancy way of saying that. A candle is made out of 17 ounces of wax. Okay? When the candle is burning, the amount of wax in the candle decreases by 1 ounce every 4 hours. What's another way of saying 4 hours? 0.2. Because if I multiply this value by 4, I get 1, right? Just a little trick. So the equation really is 17 minus 0.25x, because if it's 1 every 4 hours, I need a value here that I can multiply by 4 that gives me 1. That's all there is to it. So they want me to solve for how many ounces or how many hours is it burning if 6 ounces remain, right? So this is just a really easy linear expression. 6 minus 17 is negative 11. 2 negatives cancels out, right? So 0.25 minus, so it's 11 divided by 0.25. It's 44, I think. Yeah, cool. 17, triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where F corresponds to angle J and angles G and K are right angles. Okay, that's interesting. So G and K are right angles. I like to write this where, so I know that of the first one, G is a right angle, right? So I'm going to write it F, G, H, right? And then this one, they say K is a right angle, J, K, L. They're saying the sine of F, and sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? I think. Is 308 over, shoot. Oops. Is 308 over 317. So opposite, 308, hypotenuse, right? Opposite of, it's diagonal to the right angle, 317. What is the value of sine of j? So it's asking the same thing, right? So it's just asking for opposite, 308, and hypotenuse, 317. Yep, B. This is a fun one. The product of two integers. Oh, sorry. 16. Oh, the equation relates the numbers j, k, and m. Which equation correctly expresses k in terms of j and m? What does it mean to express k? It's k equals, right? So we're just simplifying this expression. Ah. So if I'm just simplifying this expression in terms of k, it's just manipulating the expression, right? It's not too difficult. I just got to divide by 5, right? So k equals m minus 14j over 5. Yeah, A. Is that right? I just want to double check. Yes. The product of two positive integers is 546. Let's just call it A and B, right? The first integer is 11 greater. So if this is the first integer and this is the second integer, right? You can write an expression. 2b equals. Hold on. Let me think about this. B equals 2a plus 11, right? Let's see, if I know that, let's just start picking them, right? So they're asking for the smaller of the two integers, so that allows me to take the choices that they give me, multiply it by 2. So 7 times 2 is 14, plus 11 is 25. So the product of 7 and 25, is that 546? Obviously not, right? Let's try the second one. 14 times 2 equals 28. 28 plus 11 equals 39. 14 times 39. Let's try that. Guess what? It works. Sometimes you just gotta crank through it. Which point x, y is the solution to the given system of inequalities in the plane? This one was a little bit tricky. They basically said, if you substitute, they just started substituting values, but since this is a system of inequalities, can you substitute y for x and get the, I gotta figure this, I'm gonna experiment here for a second. That's wrong though, because I would get 3x minus, is that 8? Yeah. -1 minus 7. What do you guys think for this one? How would you do this one? We'll come back to this one. The regular price of a shirt at a store is $11.70. The sale price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price, and the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? So, the regular price is $11.70, right? Sale price is 80% less. So 11.7 times 0.2, right? Because you need 1 point equals 0.2. So that would give you the sales price. And what is that? Am I kidding? $2.34, right? And the sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost for the shirt. So that's 1 plus 0.3, right? So I take that and I multiply it by 1.3. Oh, excuse me, wait. Yeah, greater. So that's 0.7. Yeah, 1 minus 0.3, which gives me 0.7, right? So it's 234 times 0.7. 2.34 times 0.7. What is the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? So I got $1.60. They say it's 0.8. How did I get that? So we're good up to 1170. So far, so good. And then we multiply it by 0.2. We get $2.34. How do we? Right. So then they take that and they divide it by 1.3. Excuse me. Which gives $1.80. A sample of oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. The sample is in the shape of a cube, where each edge has a length of 0.9 meters. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of the sample? So 807 kilograms per cubic meter. Cube, right? Oh, interesting. Edge length of 0.9, so it's just 0.9 all around. What is the mass in kilograms of this sample? I think it's just 0.9 cubed, right? Times 807. What is it, 0.9 cubed? Zero 0.729 times 807. $588. Yeah, that's right. length times width times height times the density, right? Not too bad. For x greater than 0, the function is defined as follows. F of x equals 201% of x. Which of the following could describe this function? So, if f of 1, what's 200% of 1? That would be 2.01, right? 1 times 2.01. What about f of 2? So that would be 2 times 2.01. One more, f of 3. It's linear, right? It's increasing then. Is that right? Yeah. The rational function f is defined by an equation in the form f of x equals a over x plus b, where a and b are constants. The partial graph of y equals f of x is shown. If g of x equals, remember this is just what? It's a manipulation, it's a shift down, right? Or excuse me, it's a shift. The graph shown as partial graph substituting f as the equation. What's a point on this graph that we definitely know of that we can use to solve this? Probably it's there's 2. 3, well, yeah, 3 definitely. Right here, here, and here. So we can use that. Let's see. -7, -2, right?
Yes.
Yep. And what can we do with that? We know the y and the x coordinates. So if I put in -7 equals a over -2 plus b, I can simplify this equation. I get -7 times -2 plus b equals a, so 14 minus 7b equals a, right? What else can I do? Or 2, did I do something? Oh, sorry. I substituted. Try that again. -2 equals a x, excuse me, -7 plus b. So I get the expression -2 times -7 plus b equals a. 14 plus b, excuse me, 14 minus 2b equals a, right? So that gives me that expression. Now, we also know that the line passes through the coordinates -5, -6. So I can do the same thing there. I can take negative 6 equals a over negative 5 plus b. So I get negative 6 times negative 5 plus b equals a. 30 minus 6b equals a. I can substitute these expressions. 14 minus 2b equals 30 minus 6b. So I get, if I bring here over here, that over there, I get 4b equals 16. B equals 4. And what does A equal when B equals 4 from my initial expression? 14 minus 2 times 4, that's 8. So 14 minus 8 equals 6. So I get A equals 6 and B equals 4. And then they're saying, so I solved for A and B. Okay, and it gets a little bit easier after that. So I can plug it in now that I know A and B, and it's just is it D? This is tough, man. Okay, so let's rewrite the f equation now that we know A and B. So f of x equals, what did we say it was? 6 over x plus 4, right? And they're just saying, oh, it's just an expansion of, so g of x, that's pretty simple then, is just x plus 4 plus 4, right? Is that right? Am I crazy? 6. X plus 8? Yes. You got it. Whew. That was dumb. All right. Which expression is equivalent to this junk? Little junk. What's my common denominator? All right, I gotta figure that out. So we know that we're gonna take that, and then what do I need to multiply this to get that, right? I need an x to get the x squared. I need a y, right? Because I need at least y to the 1. I got my 8, so I'm good there for the, something's throwing me off. Factoring this out, just the second expression. So I need x, y, and then xy? That's just 1. I think you could cancel all this. Hold on. What do you guys think? Where's your head at for this? I'm just factoring this. Sorry, wait, my head is swimming, so I'm just actually looking to simplify this expression. It has nothing to do with that. Let's simplify this first, right? I need an x, and I need a y. I got it. So I just need to multiply this side by xy.
Because you need to find the absolute least common
Yeah.
denominator.
So how does that all simplify out? Then I need to multiply this by xy, right? Or, so I need to multiply the top by xy,
Yeah.
right? So that gives me xy squared. So I can immediately eliminate these two because I don't have xy squared. Then what does it give me? I get plus xy, so it gives me 13xy. And then I get minus 8y. And what's my denominator? It's a cube, right? So the question between C and D is whether it's a cube. Is it a cube? No, it's a square. Simplifies out. You guys can do this. Like, it's just, it's not hard. It just takes a long time. Yeah, yeah. 26, table.
LCD, I just like, once I reviewed the LCD was on the bottom, I just put C because it couldn't have been A or B.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just knew it wasn't going to be to the third, and I took out B.
Mm-hmm. 26. Table shows the results of a poll. A total of 803 volunteers selected at random were asked which candidate they would vote for in the upcoming election. According to the poll, 6,424 people voted in the election. By how many votes would Angel Cruz be expected to win? Interesting. Okay, so this is just a ratio, right? So what's 483 divided by 320? What does that come out to? So for every one vote I get of this guy, I get 1.509 of this other guy. So if I get 6,424, I need to divide that by 1.509 to get how many votes the other guy would have got, right? I think. Yep. So I get, no, that's not quite right. Did I do this right? I think I need to express the ratio. It's out of total. So you could do 483 plus 320 equals what? 803. So 803 represents the proportion. So 483 divided by 80, part of total. .614 multiplied by the total number of votes, 6424. Yeah. The graph of all that in the xy plane is a circle. What is the length of the circle's radius? Isn't it just, the radius is always what it's equal to at the end. Well, the equation for a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we have to rewrite this in this form. That's kind of what they're saying. The term x minus h in this equation can be obtained by adding the square of half the coefficient of x to both sides of the given equation to complete the square. The coefficient of x is 1. Half of the coefficient is a half. The square of half of the coefficient is 1/4. Adding 1/4 to each of this expression yields I'm not quite sure how to do that one. You can go home and take a look at that one.
Yeah, I don't even know how to raise it. So,
I don't know how they just decide, just decide to take the coefficient of the first value and then squaring it, or it's not immediately, it's not intuitive to me why they would do that. Halfway done.
I'll go see Big Tom. Right? Yeah. Wait, where did he go?
I don't know.
After that.
So we're just walking out. We're just gonna leave.
Oh, okay. Did they answer for the math section?
Yeah.
Did they answer was it wrong, or is it?
That was the interesting answer.
Oh, okay. Can you walk me through how you solved it?
Let me just get to the page. So, right, right here, I said D, x equals 14 and y equals 0 because if you plug in both sides into this equation, it would have been 0 equals 14 plus 7, which is 21, and 0 is more than negative 29 minus 1.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was another way to do it other than plugging it in. I don't know, because usually when they give you systems with equations, you can like manipulate them so you can find either x or y and then plug it into the other equation.
And I think we also forgot to do 20.
Oh, really? Yeah, we can go back and go do that. Do those. It's exhausting. Oh yeah, we get to do that. Real quick for 19, you don't have to overthink this one. You can just like plug it in. So if I put in 0, if I just start plugging in, you'll find it's D. 0 equals greater than 14 plus 7. That checks out, right? And then 0, yeah, minus 2, 14, minus 1. So it's D. This one, pretty, I don't know, it's anytime they give you like weird square roots on both sides of the equation, you can just square them, right? And that frees everything up. Mm-hmm. So this is what? X squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 3x equals 34. Bringing it over. Yeah. Minus 7x minus 30? Yeah. Minus 10 plus 3? Yeah. So my solutions are 10 or negative 3. Smallest solution, negative 3. All right. Second reading section. According to botanists, a viburnum plant experiencing insect damage may develop erinium, a discolored felty growth on its leaf blades. A blank viburnum plant, on the other hand, will have leaves with smooth surfaces and uniformly green coloration. Obviously healthy, right? They're making a contrast between the two. Nigerian-American author Tihu Cole's blank, his two passions, photography and the written word, culminates in his 2017 book, Blind Spot, which evocatively combines his original photographs from his travels with his poetic prose. So he's got photographs and he mixes that with his poetic prose. So the two are intersected or complementary to each other, right? Surprise at no, concern about no, indifference no, enthusiasm for, right? Novelist N.K. Jemisin declines to blank the conventions of the science fiction genre in which she writes, and she has suggested that her readers appreciate her work precisely because of this willingness to thwart expectations, right? And formulating plots and themes. Willingness to thwart expectations and avoid formulaic plots and themes. Declines to, it's almost kind of like a double negative. Yeah, yeah. The following text is from the 1924 poem Cycle by Darcy McNichol, who was a citizen of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. There shall be new roads wending, a new beating of the drum. Men's eyes shall have fresh seeing, gray lives reprise their span. But under the new sun's being, completing what night began, there'll be the same backs bending, the same sad feet drum. And when this night finds its ending, the day shall have come. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text, right? It's kind of a little hidden, but backs bending, feet drumming, gray lives, kind of the monotony of life, right? To consider how the repetitiveness inherent in human life can be both rewarding and challenging. I think that's a strong candidate. To question whether activities completed at one time of day are more memorable, I don't see that anywhere. To refute the idea that joy is more commonly experienced emotion than sadness, I don't really see that anywhere either. Or to demonstrate how the experience of individuals relate to the experiences of their communities. I don't see a reference to a community. So I'm going to go with A. The following text is adapted from Jane Austen's 1814 novel Mansfield Park. The speaker, Tom, is considering staging a play at home with a group of his friends and family. We mean nothing but a little amusement among ourselves, just to vary the scene and exercise our powers in something new. We want no audience, no publicity. We may be trusted, I think, in choosing some play most perfectly unexceptionable. I can conceive no greater harm or danger to any of us in conversing in the elegant written language of some respectable author than chattering in words of our own. So he's really kind of rejecting flowery language from a respectable author. He's just talking about something very plain and straightforward, right? So which choice best states the main purpose of the text? To offer Tom's assurance that the play will be inoffensive and only involve a small number of people. I think that's a pretty strong candidate, right? B, to clarify that the play will not be performed in the manner Tom had originally intended. I don't see a juxtaposition of a before and after for how it was originally intended, so I don't think it's that one. C, to elaborate on the idea that people around Tom lack the skills to successfully stage a play. I don't see any reference to varying degrees of skill. D, to assert that Tom believes the group performing the play will be able to successfully promote it. I don't see promotion. Just talk about the nature of the play itself that they intend to compose. A is really what I find to be most strongly correlated with the passage that was written. Musician Joni Mitchell, who is also a painter, uses images she creates for her album covers to emphasize ideas expressed in her music. For the cover of her album Turbulent Indigo, Mitchell painted a striking self-portrait that closely resembles Vincent van Gogh's self-portrait with bandaged ear. The image calls attention to the album's title song, in which Mitchell sings about the legacy of the post-impressionist painter. In that song, Mitchell also hints that she feels a strong artistic connection to Van Gogh, an idea that is reinforced by her imagery of the cover. Which choice best describes the overall structure? So what is it saying? Uses images for her album art covers to emphasize ideas expressed in her music. Right. That's a strong one. B, it doesn't. It's maybe. C, similarity. I don't see the difference. D, doesn't describe the song. So we're looking between A and B. Which is the stronger of the two? Let me double check. I would, B is, it's compelling, but I don't see the influence on other artists. That's the one aspect of that that it kind of comes a little short. Yeah, comes a little short. It's all right. Anytime you get to text one and text use, read the question and then decide which text to read first, because that will frame the other text. Based on the text, how would these two people of text 2 most likely characterize the conclusion of text 1? So let's read text 2 first. Past studies of white dwarf atmospheres included that certain exoplanets had continental crusts. These two people argue that the studies unduly emphasize atmospheric traces of lithium and other stuff as signifiers. So just because you see lithium in the atmosphere, it does not portend that of the types of rock you would find on the planet, like Earth. And why? The studies don't adequately account for different minerals made up of various ratios and the possibility of blah, 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 blah. They don't, right? It's just a bad supposition, right? So the first passage, astronomer Mark Collin and his colleagues examined 4 white dwarfs in order to determine the composition of exoplanets that used to orbit those stars. Studying wavelengths of the light and white dwarf atmosphere, the team reported that traces of elements such as lithium and sodium support the presence of exoplanets with continental crusts similar to Earth. So they're saying that this observation is just inherently flawed, right? That unduly emphasizing traces of lithium and other metals and what types of rock will be subsequently found on the planet. So based on the text, what would they say about text 1? Well, text 1 really is kind of setting that up, and they're saying that they're going to have rock crusts similar to Earth, but we know that that's refuted, right? Based on the text, how would the people in the second text characterize the first text? As unexpected? No. Premature? No. Questionable, right? They're calling into question the supposition that the first text makes. Utah is home to Pando, a colony of about 47,000 quaking aspen trees that all share a single root system. Pando is one of the largest single organisms by mass on Earth, but ecologists are worried that its growth is declining, in part because of grazing by animals. The ecologists also say that strong fences could prevent deer from eating young trees and help Pando start thriving again. So, according to the text, why are ecologists worried about Pando? It isn't growing at the same rate it used to. Growth is declining. That's a strong candidate. It isn't producing young trees anymore. I don't think that's really the purpose of the passage. It can't grow into new areas because it is blocked by fences. I don't think that's really the main point of the paragraph. Its root system can't supply many more trees. Maybe, but I really think that growth rate of change, that is typically the point of emphasis in an article, because it wants to change over time. That's a core tenet of anything you're looking at scientific data or before and after, right? 10. For many years, the only existing fossil evidence, I don't know, man, an extinct family of large aquatic arthropods known as sea scorpions and related to modern arachnids and horseshoe crabs came from 4 species living under the paleocontinent of Laurussia. In a discovery that expands our understanding of geographical distribution of mixopterids, paleontologist Bo Wang and others have identified fossilized remains of a new species that lived 400 million years ago on the continent. So it's a long time ago on a completely different continent. Does it say when in the first part? Not really, but it does mention that it was on a completely different continent, so that kind of stood out to me. 2 paleocontinents, this one, that one. So according to the text, why was the researcher and his team's discovery of this specimen significant? The fossil constitutes the first evidence by scientists that Mixopterids lived more than 400 million years ago. Hold on, let me read that first. For many years, the only existing fossil evidence that could be. I think that might be a candidate. Fossil helps establish that Mixopterids are more closely. No. The fossil helps establish a more accurate timeline of evolution. I don't see any reference to evolution. The fossil constitutes the first evidence found by scientists that Mixopterids existed outside the paleocontinent of the first place. So let's read that first sentence again. For many years, the only existing fossil evidence of this thing came from 4 species living on that continent. Discovery. He found a specimen on a different continent, right? So D, this is the first time that they found this Mixopterids on a different paleo continent, right? 11. The novelist Toni Morrison was the first black woman to work as an editor at the publishing company Random House from 1967 to 1983. The scholar asserts that one of Morrison's likely aims during her time as editor was to strengthen the presence of black writers on the list of Random House's published authors. That stands out to me, right? So what would you expect during her tenure if this was true, right? It would increase. So we're looking probably for something that expresses that. A, the percentage of authors published by Random House who were black rose in the early 1970s and stabilized throughout the decade. That could be a choice. Black authors who were interviewed in the 1980s and 90s, okay, that's outside the frame of the time period that we're discussing. C, the novels written by Toni Morrison, published after 83, sold significantly more. We're talking about the number of black authors. That's the focus here. So C is not pertinent. D, works that were cited by Toni Morrison during her time have displayed stylistic characteristics that has nothing to do with anything. A, right? Best fit. Poet Walt Whitman is an 1887 essay by Jose Marti, a Cuban author and political activist, originally written in Spanish. In the essay, Marti explores the value of literature, arguing that a society's spiritual well-being depends on the character of its literacy culture, and then blank. Which quotation from a translation of the poet Walt Whitman most effectively illustrates the claim? Just teeing it up, explores the value of literature. Spiritual well-being. So I would expect to see something in one of the answers that kind of brings those two together, right? Poetry, which brings together or separates, which fortifies or brings anguish, which shores up or demolishes souls, which gives or robs men of faith and vigor, is more necessary to a people than industry itself. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty strong candidate. Every society brings to literature its own form of expression, and the history of the nations can be told with greater truth by the stages of literature than by the chronicles and decades. No, I don't think that's... Where will a race of men go when they have lost the habit of thinking with faith about the scope and meaning of their actions? I don't see anything in literature about that. Listen to the song of this hardworking and satisfied nation. Listen to Walt Whitman. The exercise of himself exalts to majesty, tolerance exalts him to justice. And no, I don't. Literature, right? A. The largest tyrannosaurids, the family of carnivorous dinosaurs that includes those two, and most famously the T-Rex, are thought to have had the strongest bites. Right here, right? Strong bites of any land animals in Earth's history. Determining the bite force of extinct animals can be difficult, however. These two paleontologists have suggested that an estimate of a dinosaur's bite force may be significantly influenced by the methodology used in generating that estimate. So, method, really, they're saying that plays potentially a determining factor in estimating a bite force. Significantly influenced by methodology. Which choice best describes data from the table that support Barrett and Rayfield's suggestions? So, there are two methods that are the same, right? These two. And the bite forces between them are pretty close. So the study by Mears using body mass scaling and produced by the lowest estimated maximum bite force. Well, I don't think there's anything there. I'm gonna skip. I want to find a response that both references cost and Bates. There's Bates, there's cost. Bite forces, they were similar to each other. Boom, I don't need to go any farther. When it asks you to make comparisons, try to find values in the table that are similar to each other and then look at who are the people or what are the methods associated with the two that comprise those two rows, and then find an answer that references that, because you're given a bunch of random data and they're asking you to look for a pattern. So as soon as you can identify a pattern, you can narrow the choices and speed up the time to respond just by looking for the items referenced in that pattern, right? So we can use that same technique here, right? Number and origin of clamshell tools found at different levels below the surface in Neanderthal caves. And it says, studying the tools unearthed at a cave site on the western coast of Italy, the two archaeologists, the archaeologist and his colleagues, have determined that prehistoric Neanderthal groups fashioned them from shells of clams that they harvested from the seafloor while wading or diving. Clamshells become thin and eroded as they wash up on the beach, while those on the seafloor are smooth. So the research team suspect that the Neanderthals prized tools made with seafloor shells. However, the team also concluded that those tools were more likely challenging to obtain, noting that blank. So let's just rewind back that last sentence. Research team suspects that Neanderthal prized the tools made with seafloor shells. However, the team also concluded that those tools were more likely challenging to obtain, noting that what? So this is a strange table because it's not in order, right? You go from 3-4 to 6-7 to 4-5 to 2-3. But generally, if we focus on clams shells found from the seafloor, the sweet spot seems to be 3-4 and 5-6. Which choice most effectively uses data from the table to support the research team's conclusion? What is their conclusion? More challenging to obtain. At each step below the surface in the cave, the difference in the number of tools of each type suggests that shells were easier to collect on the beach than they were then to harvest from the seafloor. Yeah, that's definitely true because there's certainly more shells on the beach that were collected than those harvested from the seafloor. This one's strange. They reference this being the right answer, but let me read it off because I want to be able to reference that in terms of like a strategy that you can use as opposed to just the answer. And there's the data there just kind of like threw me for a loop because it's just kind of like all over the place. But there is a pretty big distance between the 99 and 33. So they reference that each depth below the surface in the cave, the difference in number of tools of each type suggests that the shells were easier to collect from the beach than the harvest seafloor. So at the same depth, that which were harvested from the beach were much higher in number than those harvested from the seafloor. It just gets wordy. Sometimes this table stuff is tricky. All right, 15. Average number and duration of torpor bouts and arousal episodes of Alaska marmots and Arctic ground squirrels. Okay, I want you to go through this one yourself, and I want you to, one of you to come up with what you think it is and why. It's not easy. What do you think, guys?
8.
Let's take a look. The Alaska marmots' arousal episodes lasted for days. Did the Alaskan arousal episodes last for days? I don't think it lasted for days. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just go through it together. Alaska marmots and the Arctic ground squirrel both maintained torpor for several consecutive days. Torpor bouts? How long? Yes, that's true. Wait. The Alaska marmots and Arctic ground squirrels both maintained torpor for several consecutive days per bout, on average. That's true. I think so. Is that right? C. Alaska marmots had shorter torpor bouts. Alaska marmots, shorter torpor bouts. That's true. And longer arousal periods. That's also true. Because this is shorter and this is greater. What was their conclusion? Hypothesized because the ground squirrels hibernate alone, they would likely exhibit, there's our prompt, will likely exhibit longer bouts of torpor and shorter arousal episodes. So the answer has to contain that, and it should reference data. Longer bouts of torpor and shorter arousals. So I'm going to take B back because that's not the point of their conclusion. C is, I think, the inverse of what they're saying. It's just said in a different way that if the ground squirrels had longer bouts of torpor and shorter arousal periods, then the opposite is true. You know, the other one's less than that, right? So C. Ratified by more than 90 countries, the Nagoya Protocol is an international agreement ensuring that indigenous communities are compensated when their agricultural resources and knowledge of wild plants and animals are utilized by agricultural corporations. However, the protocol has shortcomings. For example, it allows corporations to insist their agreements with communities to conduct research on the commercial uses of communities' resources and knowledge remain confidential. Therefore, some indigenous advocates express concern that the protocol may have unintended effect of blank. So if it's confidential, not known, you can't really review it, right? Like, it's kind of a black box. No one really knows what's going on. Diminishing the monetary reward, I don't see that. I don't see limiting research corporations conduct. Yeah, definitely C. Preventing independent observers from determining whether the agreements guarantee equitable compensation, right? The domestic sweet potato descends from a wild plant native to South America. It also populates the Polynesian islands, where evidence confirms that native Hawaiians and other indigenous people were cultivating the plant centuries before seafaring occurred over thousands of miles of oceans separating them from South America. To explain how the sweet potato was first introduced in Polynesia, botanist Pablo Muenos Rodriguez and colleagues analyzed DNA of numerous varieties of the plant, concluding that Polynesian varieties diverge from South American ones over 100,000 years ago. So that's before anyone was traveling. Given that Polynesian was peopled, I'd never heard that was a place being peopled. It's interesting. Only in the last 3,000 years, the team concluded, so this sweet potato existed before for a long time. Which choice much logically completes the text? The cultivation of the sweet potato in Polynesia likely predates its cultivation in South America. So it diverged. Like, they both existed 100,000 years ago, but we've been able to determine that the Polynesian sweet potato diverged from the South American one a while ago, so I don't think that's a good choice. Polynesian peoples likely acquired the sweet potato from South American peoples only within the last 3,000, no, because this event happened a long time ago. Human activity likely played no role in the introduction of sweet potato in Polynesia. Yeah, I really think that is the most likely answer, just because if they diverged more than 100,000 years ago, people were not sailing across the ocean 100,000 years ago. This divergence happened, yes, nature. Nature is the originator of how that came to be. Even though bats prefer very sweet nectar, the plants that attract them have evolved to produce nectar that is only moderately sweet. A recent study, blank, why? Pick the word. Explaining, no, definitely not B and C. Definitely not D. Explains. Right. Former First Lady of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Indian activist and educator Hansa Mehta were instrumental. Sorry, one sec. In drafting the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a document that blank the basic freedoms to which all people are entitled. Which choice completes the text that it conforms to standard? Have outline? Outline, definitely no. Outlines, maybe. We're outlining, no. Instrumental in drafting, I think it's C. Is that right? Yeah. The lifespans of rockfish vary greatly by species. For instance, the colorful calico rockfish can survive for a little over blank. The rough-eye rockfish boasts a maximum span of 2 centuries. Okay, so decade in while. Over a decade. What decade? I don't think it would be B. I don't think we need 2 separate sentences for that. I don't think we would use a semicolon or a colon. I think it's just D. I think all we need is a comma between decade and while, right? The Lion light system, developed by Kenyan inventor Richard Torreira, consists of LED lights installed around the perimeter of livestock pastures. Powered with blank, the blinking LEDs keep lions away at night, thus protecting the livestock. I don't know, man. I don't think LED lights are going to keep lions away. Which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Energy collected by solar panels during the day. Let's see. Powered with blank. Energy collected, comma, no, I don't see a comma between all of that. Energy collected by solar panels during the day. I think, yeah, I need a comma at the end. So I'm going to eliminate B. energy collected by solar panels during the day. No, energy. Yeah, it's not D. It's got to be C, right? Is it C? Double check. Yep. Materials scientist Mary Agathe Charpain and her colleagues believe that they can improve the multi-component alloy listed in equal proportions mixture of nickel, cobalt, and chromium by replacing chromium with ruthenium. So we know that just based on how these other elements are presented, we're going to need a comma after the element, right? And then we're going to need a but. So A and C are out. So, and I definitely need a comma. So it's D, yeah. The progressive era in the United States witnessed the rise of numerous black women's clubs, local organizations that advocated for racial and gender equality. Among the club's leaders, blank Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin, founder of the Women's Era Club of Boston. Among the club's leaders, it refers to a single person. I remember when I went through this the first time, I thought it was, so it's not have been, it's A. I thought it was B2, and the reason that that they gave was A is the best answer. The convention being tested here is subject-verb agreement. The singular verb was agrees in number with the singular subject Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin. So just keep that in mind. Just watch the numerical value of the subject, whether it's plural or not. Based on genetic evidence, archaeologists have generally agreed that reindeer domestication began in the 11th century CE. However, since uncovering fragments of a 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia, blank may have begun much earlier. Which choice completes the text so it conforms to standard English? Researcher. C is like super crazy wordy. So is D, it's just not. Researcher Robert Losey has argued, I think A really kind of conforms to grammatically correct English and sets up the rest of the sentence. Hegra is an archaeological site in present-day Saudi Arabia and was the second largest city of that kingdom, which was founded in the 4th century BCE to 1st century CE. Archaeologist Layla Naimi recently traveled to Hegra to study its ancient blank into the rocky outcrops of a vast desert. Oh, I remember saying this is like the red thing. It's like very red. I've seen pictures of this before. These burial chambers seem to blend seamlessly with nature. To study its ancient tombs. Tombs, I think you can just go with D. I don't think, no, you don't need a comma. I think you can just go D, right? Let me double check. 26. Oh. Is it A? Huh. Yeah, hold on, let me double check my work. They say it's A. Yeah. Choice A is the best. The convention being tested is punctuation use between sentences. In this choice, the period after tombs is used to correctly mark the boundary between one sentence and another. Archaeologists and tombs and built in nature. That's so weird. I don't know. I thought D2, so that one is interesting. When external forces are applied to common glass made from silicates, energy builds up around minuscule defects in the material, resulting in fractures. Recently, engineer Erika Frankberg of Tampere University in Finland used the chemical blank, to make glassy solid that can withstand higher strain than silica glass can before fracturing. So the chemical compound aluminum oxide. I think, if you were to place that with a name, would you put a comma between the two? I don't think you need a comma there. I really think that, yeah, you can do without one. Let me just double check. Compound aluminum. So their explanation for this is D is the best answer. The convention being tested is the use of punctuation around noun phrases. No punctuation is needed because the noun phrase aluminum oxide is a restrictive appositive, meaning that it provides essential identifying information about the noun phrase before it, the chemical compound. Okay. Etched into Peru's Nazca Desert are line drawings so large that they can only be fully seen from high above. Archaeologists have known of the lines since the 1920s, when a researcher spotted some from a nearby foothill, and they have been studying the markings ever since. Blank archaeologists' efforts are aided by drones that capture high-resolution aerial photographs of the lines. Okay, so they've known something has existed for a while, and then we're making a comparison to modern day when they're using drones. So I don't think however really fits. I don't think still really fits. Comparison could be a reasonable choice, but I like currently because it really kind of sets up the modern day methodology that they're kind of examining these artifacts. Archaeologist Sue Brunning explains why the 7th century ship burial site in Sutton Hoo in England was likely the tomb of the king. First, the gold artifacts inside the ship suggest that the person buried with them was a wealthy and respected leader. Blank, the massive effort required to bury the ship would likely only have been undertaken for a king. Instead, I don't know, because we're finding a word that kind of connects or extends the first supposition. Still, yeah. 30, the more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behaviors, the larger and more energy-demanding the animal's brain tends to be. Blank, from an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform only basic actions should allocate fewer resources to growing and maintaining brain tissue. The specialized subtypes of ants within colonies provide an opportunity to explore this hypothesis. So they're saying there's a relationship between the larger the brain, the more diverse and wide-ranging behavior. In the second sentence is kind of the opposite, right? They're just saying the opposite. Thus, or subsequently, no, because that would be an extension of the supposition in the first sentence. Besides, I don't think that would fit. Nevertheless, no. I think thus. I believe that to be. Yes, that is correct. When designing costumes for film, American artist Sedarat Lairleb typically custom fits the garments to each actor. Blank, for the film Sunshine, in which astronauts must reignite a dying sun, she designed a golden spacesuit and had a factory reproduce it in a few standard sizes. So she typically custom fits, but then in this movie, she moved away from that. She, lacking a tailor-made quality, the final recreations reflected the ungainliness of actual spacesuits. So, nevertheless, thus, no. I think nevertheless might work, actually. We'll come back to that. Likewise, no. Moreover, no. I'm going to go with nevertheless. Yeah. 32. While researching a topic, a student following notes. Sean Tan is an Australian author. In 2008, he published Tales from the Outer Suburbia, a book written of 15 short stories. These stories describe surreal events, stands out to me, occurring in otherwise ordinary suburban neighborhoods. In 2018, he published Tales from the Inner City, 25 short stories. Stories describe surreal events occurring in the otherwise ordinary urban settings. Okay, some parallel between the two. Student wants to emphasize the similarity between the two books. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information? So his book, From Suburbia, describes surreal events occurring in otherwise ordinary places. No, that's Tales from Outer Suburbia. No, unlike Tales in the Inner. No. Yeah, it's D. Right? While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The factors that affect clutch size, the number of eggs laid at one time, have been well studied in birds but not in lizards. A team from Tel Aviv University investigated what factors influence lizard clutch size, or the amount of eggs. Obtained clutch size and habitat data for 3,900 lizard species, analyzed it, and she found that clutch size was associated with environments in higher latitudes that have more seasonal change. That's interesting. Lizards in higher latitude environments may lay larger clutches to take advantage of shorter windows of favorable conditions. Student wants to emphasize the study of the aim of the research study. So the aim of the research study, what factors influence lizard clutch size? So we need something that references higher altitudes, right? And more seasonal change in one of these. I don't think it's A. Yes, I think B is probably it. Let me just double check. C, we know higher latitudes. I don't think that was, I think you got to reference how many, I like the reference to, this doesn't have any reference to Atlas, so it would be B. This is the latitude. Almost done. Just one more section. Yeah. Just around the corner and to the left. Have they mentioned taking the SAT in school, like your teachers, or made on morning announcements?
Yeah.
What are they typically like? Hey, SAT is coming.
So I guess it's just coming up, make sure it's free pretty much.
Oh, okay, good.
It's your responsibility, because I think it's the 11, that was the 16.
Yeah, 16.
APs are 11.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Eight-
it's kind of unfair.
Yeah. APs are in. I always took the APs in May.
It's in May 11.
No, SAT is April 16th. APs.
Oh, thank the Lord. I thought it was, I thought it was May 16th and April 11th, I was about to fall apart.
No, APs are in May. SAT is April 16th.
I was like, oh god. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah, I think that would throw a lot of people for a loop. Oh, good. You guys ate the stuff. Great.
A lot of it, yeah.
Good.
But then in this freaking story, it's so disgusting. I'm going to get that. He made it $30 an hour. That's not good. It is really.
Who's buying a house?
This family friend of ours, he went to Troy High. His dad and his family owns like a plumbing and company, and they're like millionaires. And he's been working since he's like younger than me.
How old is he now?
He's 21.
Okay.
He's about to buy our house for 200, like a little bit under 200K in cash, which is insane.
Yeah. In the trades, you can make a lot of money. It's just like you don't want to be like, once you get in your 40s and 50s, it sucks. Like you want to have people working for you in
That's
the
why his parents are like that's why their parents are in a good situation because they just own it, they just manage it.
right. Right.
They like they have a business economics degree as well. But they
Good for them. Yeah.
yeah.
Gold is, like the Three Stooges said, gold is where you find it. We'll start once he gets back. I do. I was gonna push for like the morning announcements thing, but I'm thinking like it would be better attended like once people are after like back from spring break and it's closer to the actual SAT. So I'll send you. Oh, can you guys do me a favor and just sign in? Just put your name and your email. I know it's the same thing. You've already signed it previous times, but it just proves that who was here and stuff.
Make sure to send it to Ryan Chervolis as well. I think I'm assuming his email has, I don't know, is your email her name?
It's like RT
Do you guys know Leah? She emailed me referencing she would be here, but I guess she didn't. She was here the first session. I don't know.
She goes to I don't know. Are we fast?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you? I was holding it, bro. Okay.
You guys can we can, I feel like we get through the math like really, other than the last couple of questions, but we get through 75-80% of it within like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I was gonna hold it.
Can you sign in when you have it, or you did? Okay, good, thank you. How you doing? Hanging in there? Good. It's long. I know these are long. What school do you go to? Oh, good. In what grade? Cool. Almost done. Oh, can you sign in on that sheet when you have just your name and your email?
Just first name, right?
First and last name.
And personal email?
Yeah. Thank you. And what school do you go to?
Athens.
Oh, cool. In what grade are you in?
I'm sophomore.
Awesome.
My dad mentioned that when he dropped me off here.
Oh, okay.
Stop talking to Tommy, come on.
Math.
We'll crank through this. Pencil? Pen? Ugh. I still need to record the second math session, and I gotta send you the email out of, because the screen and the audio is recorded to YouTube.
Online, yeah.
Yeah.
I did it at my house. I remember.
I circled A's, or E's. Smart copy, huh?
All right, last section. Isabel grows potatoes in her garden. This year, she harvested 760 potatoes and saved 10% of them to plant next year. How many of the harvested potatoes did Isabel save to plant next year? So really, that's just what, 760 times 0.1, right? That's 76. What is the y-intercept of the graph shown? Right? This one, 0, 2. What length in centimeters is equivalent to a length of 51 meters? So 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So 51 meters. It's dimensional analysis, right? Times 100 centimeter over 1 meter, right? Cancel out. 51,000. No, excuse me, 5,100. Sorry. Did I get this? Yeah, 5,100. Yeah. A bus is traveling at a constant speed along a straight portion of road. The equation d equals 30t gives the distance d in feet from a road marker that the bus will be 2 seconds after passing the marker. How many feet from the marker will the bus be 2 seconds after passing the marker? Isn't that just like d 32, d equals 60, right? Which expression is equivalent to? It's 20w minus 4w minus 3w. So 20w minus 7w equals 13w. B. Right? Yeah. The equation relates to the variables x and y. For which values x of the equation y reach its minimum? This is just 6. If 6 plus x equals 9, what is the value? So x equals 3. What is the value of 18 plus 3, 9, 27, right?
Yes.
Yep. This is just an expression. Wait a minute. It's kind of throwing me off. 11 and 2, but that doesn't equal 14, right? Still only gets you to 13.
That wouldn't equal negative 14.
Yeah.
Or 22 max and negative 14.
It's interesting. What do they say? Y equals A, B, and C are constants. So let's rewrite this expression. The value of y reaches its minimum when x equals minus 2, minimum. So first of all, let's define the expression. This equals A equals 1, B equals negative 14, C equals 22. A minimum of y is when x equals negative b over 2a. So x equals negative b, so that's negative 14, over 2a, which is 1. So x equals 7? Yes, that's correct. Yeah. It's kind of weird. Let me just double check that. C equals 22. I just want to double check. Yes, that's correct. Which expression is equivalent to, okay, it's just simplifying, right? You just take x out, 9, x plus 5, yeah. Triangle ABC, the measure of B is 52, so it's just 180 minus 52 minus 17, right? And that's definitely 100 something, it's not these. Graphs of the equations, so they already give us x. Yeah, y equals 64 plus 8, y equals 72. Scatter plot shows the relationship between the two variables, x and y, the line of best fit. So it definitely has a negative slope, right? So that eliminates A and C, and our intercept is 13.5, right? Right here, it's positive, it's not negative, so it's B. Circle has center O and points R and S lie on the circle. When in triangle ORS, the measure, so it's like real close to 90 degrees, right? Center O, call this S, and we'll call that R. And this is 88 degrees. What is the measure of RSO in degrees? That's interesting. Let's see. What equation would we use there? So we know that, let me just see if I've written this down correctly. I'm sorry? They're saying, well, it's actually an arc. I think it's asking for an arc length. So it wouldn't be it would not be a degree measurement. So the reasoning they give is because O is at the center of the circle, and they lie on the circle, that these are radiuses of the circle. And it follows that the length of these two are the same. So you can just call this x and x, right? And that, let's see, what equation do they use? The sum of the measures of the interior angles of the triangle are 180 degrees. So they're saying x degrees plus x degrees plus 88 degrees equals 180 degrees. So you get 2x, yeah, 2, and then I gotta sorry, let me rewrite this. So I get this is strange.
You skipped 12, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'll go back to that. So they're saying x degrees plus 88 degrees equals 180 degrees, and so that gives you 2x degrees plus 180, or excuse me, equals 180 minus 88 degrees 2x 1. Then 92, 48, yeah. X equals 40. Excuse me, 46. That's a weird one. We'll have to come back to that. Sorry, I missed this one. Function f is defined by f of x equals 8 cube root of x. For what value of f of x equals 48? So how can I manipulate this? Well, I need this to be 6, right? Because 8 times 6 is, what's the square root of, it's 36, right? Because the square root of 36 gives me 6, which equals 48, right? 14. This expression, what is the sum of the solutions to, okay, we gotta clean that up, right? We gotta,
So I tried to, what's 2x squared minus
the sum of the solutions, so x squared minus 56 is 4x squared minus 28x. So if I clean this up, I'm going to bring my x squareds, so at least I make them positive. I get 3x squared minus, really? 29x? 56, bring it over to the other side, plus 56?
Yes. Oh, and you factor.
Then can I take a 3 out? Is 29 divisible by 3? No, it's not, because 30.
We gotta add. So
Did I forget something?
exactly what I.
Oh, do I then use the quadratic equation? Yeah, they want you to use the quadratic equation to find. So you guys know the quadratic equation. X equals negative b plus minus square root quantity b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. If you plug the coefficients in there, you get the answer. That's ugly, man.
That's not a lot, that's like normal math, right?
Yeah, but I'm just surprised. Like, I would expect like the coefficients to be a little bit cleaner, and as opposed to the fractional stuff. The solution to the given equation, system of equations, is xy. What is the value of 5x? Well, what if I... Right? 5x equals 12. This is 12 over 5. Is that right? Is that right? Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. 5x equals, yeah, it's just that. Cube has an edge length 41. What is the volume? It's just cubed, right? Length times width times height. So what's 41 cubed? It's probably something really big. 61. Yeah. The given function p models the population of Lowell T years after a census. Which following functions best models the population of Lowell m months after this? What? Years, right? So t is just a fraction. 12 over 12 is 1 year, right? So if I get this is interesting. I don't do any crap. I don't think it's not A. It's not, yeah. Months. Let me double check. I think it's Is it D or C? Because wouldn't it just be like 13 months or 12 months would be 1, which is the same as T equals 1, right? So 13 months would be 13 over 12, which would give you a more 13. Why do you think it's C? Or is that just the math that? Is it D or is it C? It's D.
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't need to put it over 12.
Not this part, no. Yeah, you're only modeling it in terms of like T, and T is in terms of M. You can just relate it directly, I guess. The solution to the given system of equations is x, y. What is the value of y? You can just solve between the two, right? I'll solve for x for the first one. Right? And then 2 times 28 minus 7y over 6 plus 2y equals 10. One third. So I get, oh, 25. Am I on the right path? I just want to make sure. No. Elimination method, system by 3. There's an easier way to do this. So they're saying multiplying each side. The given system equation will be solved by elimination method. Multiplying each side of the second equation in the system yields 2x plus 2y times 3 equals 10 times 3, which equals 6x plus 6y equals 30. Subtracting. Oh, I see what they're doing. Then you can do 6x plus, we'll take the first equation, 6x plus 7y minus 6x plus 6y equals 28 minus 30, which simplifies out to 6x minus 6x plus 7y minus 6y equals 28 minus 30. These cancel, y equals -2. It's a tricky one, but there's, yeah. The minimum value of x is 12 less than 6 times the number n. Which inequality shows the possible values of x? The minimum value of x. So which sign is that? Greater than or less than? That would be the greater than, right? So that would eliminate A and C. That would eliminate A and C. 6 times 12 less than 6 times, yeah, it's just this. Don't overthink it, right? 6 times the value minus 12. Data set A consists of the heights of 75 buildings and has a mean of 32 meters. Data set B consists of the heights of 50 buildings and has a mean of 62 meters. Data set C consists of the heights of 125 buildings from data sets A and C. What is the mean in meters of data set C? So they just, added the two, 75 plus 50, which gives you 125 buildings. And the first one had a mean of 32, and the second one had a mean of 50. And the mean of that came out to 62. what is the mean meters of data set C? Oh, we're just missing, sorry, I misinterpreted this. So 75, 32. B is 50, 62. And C is 125, and this is unknown, right? Oh, it says that it's the combination of the two, and that this is, what is the mean in meters of data set C? So if we take the weight, there's more buildings here, lower mean. What would be an equation? So we can kind of rewrite this as x over 75 equals 32, right? Where x represents the heights of the buildings in meters in data set A, multiplying both by 75 gives you 32 times 75, which is 2,400. And then I'm gonna come back to this one. This is a good one though. This is kind of interesting. The graph of the expression is translated down 4 units in the xy plane. What is the x-coordinate of the x-intercept of the resulting graph? Okay, so we can rewrite this as, we give it a goofy equation, ax plus by equals c, right? C. And we know that if it's translated down by k units, that impacts the y components. So if I was to rewrite that, I get ax plus b y plus k equals c. So it's down 4 units. So rewriting it, I get 9x minus 10 y plus 4 equals, 19. That was my original expression. So if I rewrite all of that, I get 9x minus 10y equals 59. And then they're asking for the x-coordinate of the x-intercept. So what does that mean? That means when y equals 0. So I get 9x equals 59. So x equals 59 over 9. Two variables, x and y, are related such that for each increase of 1 in the value of y increases by a factor of 4. When x equals 0, y equals 200. Man, you can just jam this out, right? Like, you can plug this in. I can tell you it's not going to be 8. That's going to be a huge, huge number. That's not right. If I plug in 0 here, what is 200 to the 0 power? 1. That's 4, right? That's not right. When I plug in 0, here, 0 to the 4th power, I think it's 1, right? Yeah. See. The dot plot, how many more I got? 3. Oh, more than that. I'm doing 23. X squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0. One solution of the given equation can be written as 1 plus square root of k, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? Should we just jam for this one? We can just, because what, one, does this factor out real quick? No, because threes, right? Because that doesn't give me anything. One solution to the given, because I can use my quadratic, right? And that could give me one of the solutions. So I just need to find the quadratic and then run it backwards, where some square root of a value gives me an integer number, and that'll give me my case. So what do they say? Blah, blah, blah. They do not use the quadratic. Adding 9 to each side of the given equation yields. So they say this. They're saying add 9 to each side, which gives you this. And then what is one good? To complete the square, add 1 to each side, which yields x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 9 plus 1. So x squared so if I bring that, wait. I think I see where they're going with that. Yeah, x squared minus 2x, and if you get a 1, so that expression becomes x squared x minus 1 squared. Yeah, let's see. How does that clean up? Yeah. Wait, x squared minus 1. Hold on. 10 minus 9. What? X squared minus 2x plus 1. Am I going crazy? So they're saying add 1. How the hell does that become x minus 1 squared? Oh, that's right. No, I was right.
What did they say the answer was?
10. Okay. You could also plug it into your graphing calculator, and because that's saying y equals 0, right? This whole thing is like you find the intercepts, and then you need to find a number k that gives you 9, because, or 11? Go to 10. I don't know. it's weird. We'll have to look at that one again at some point. Dot plots represent distribution of values between data sets A and B. Which of the following statements must be true? Data median of data set A is equal to the median of data set B. The standard deviation of data set A is equal to the standard deviation of data set B. They say A is correct. The median of a data set with an odd number of values that are in ascending or descending order is the middle value of the data set. Since the distribution of values of both data set A and data set B form symmetric dot plots, and each data set has an odd number of values, it follows that the median is given by the middle value in each of the dot plots. Thus, the median of data set A is 13, and the median of data set B is 13. Therefore, statement 1 is true. Data set A and data set B have the same frequency for each of the values of 11, 12, 14, and 15. Data set A has a frequency of 1 for values 10 and 16, whereas data set B has a frequency of 2 for data set values 10 and 6. Standard deviation is a measure of the spread of a data set. It is larger when there are more values further from the mean and smaller when there are more values closer to the mean. Since both distributions are symmetric, with an odd number of values, the mean of each data set is equal to its median. Thus, each data set has a mean of 13. Since more of the data values in data set A are closer to 13 than data set B, it follows that data set A has a smaller standard deviation than data set B. Thus, the statement is false that the standard deviation of data set A is equal to the standard deviation of data set B. You guys can go through the last 3 or 4 questions. They're just more of the really, really difficult stuff. Just look that over on your own and keep trying those hard questions, and you'll get better at it. We're good.
What was 25 of it?
25. Isosceles, right triangles. 47.
Just
Yeah, it says it's A. Oh, sorry. I was looking at completely wrong section. 1 sec. I changed my. You are right. It is 47 square root of 2. Good stuff. I have one favor to ask from you guys. There is a Facebook group. I know Facebook's for old people.